You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting in North Idaho, in an actual free state instead of the despotic land of California. Always spell it with a K. And perhaps some people have said, well, who are you? Not terribly unlike the Who song. Who are you? Well, I am your conservative Sherpa, guiding you through the maelstrom of Demorat, leftist, and globalist lies, what I call the DLG. Their lies, their chaos, their deceit, their betrayal. It's their yobmek. It's what they do. And I want to tell you, please note that what goes on in this show consists of my opinion and my opinion only. I have no guests tonight. It is just me. And basically, this show is occurring. I've been a busy little beaver. Well, we'll get to it. People also say, BZ, what are you doing? I'm doing the job that the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one red diaper doper baby's baby diaper at a time. And we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, clarity, tradition, and common sense for normal people. And so politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law, we talk about it all right here at the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze, sadly, it is not. Cannot be affording that too much. I am streaming live. Jesus. I just got through watching a video that I'm not sure I can even play here. It broke me in two. It broke me in twain. And I don't know, if I were drinking my standard Mark I, Model 1, Kettle 1 instead of Monster, I might have played that for you tonight, but sadly I'm not. Well, anyway, the dealio about this is that like I said, I've been really busy. We had a great show last night, and I hope you were here. We had about 1,000 people listening live, and that was really nice. And we went through KLRN. It was myself and Sackhead Sean and Jersey Joe and Earl Biggie Jackson, not Biggie Biggy, but Earl Big E, like E. That's backwards. E. I can't even do it right side. What a moron. Anyway, Earl was here, and also Rick Robinson from KLRN. We were on for about almost 2.5 hours last night. And, you know, the Zelensky thing came out, and I thought, how cool would it be to get everyone from SHR on, and let's chat about just that. And we raked a lot of people up one side and down the other, as you would expect. You would expect that of us, and we did not disappoint. And so tonight, see, I get frustrated after a while because I am all about the politics, but Thursday night's show was not about politics. It was about the cosmos. And I had Jeff Stoner, who has one of the coolest names imaginable, on the show Thursday night. And we talked about all things cosmic and celestial and planets and universes, all that kind of stuff. Thanks to the people that are watching live right now on YouTube and X and Rumble, because I'm going live right there, Twitch, the SHR Media YouTube channel, Facebook Live on the SHR Media Facebook page, and basically it will be back wherever you can find great podcasts like mine, and lots of other people too. Anyway, we spoke at length last night. Did the Cosmos Thursday, did Zelensky, just that yesterday. And I still haven't gotten all the politics out of my system yet, because if you look at this, now this is the U.S. debt clock. U.S. national debt, $36,543 billion. Come on, chump change. Change that this guy, I'm sure, would love to have. And people are saying, well, isn't it expected with this kind of debt that you can look at right here? We're still expected, the American taxpayer is still expected to pony up, and we need to spend more and more and more. It's estimated that if you have a kid, each person in a family at this point is walking away just today with roughly $300,000 hanging over your head. If that isn't ridiculous, I just don't know what is. I before the show, I was speaking to a friend who I may or may not identify. And when the phone lines are on, by the way, let me throw this down here. When the phone lines are open, you'll see the little ticker like that running. And then if you want to call in, not that many people call in because it takes a bucket full of courage to call in. I don't know why, because I'm just a happy little guy, and I don't slash, hack, burn, or belittle people. I may have an abundant sack of sarcasm, but generally not with callers. Anyway, we were discussing this, and he sent me this, and I so want to play it tonight. And if he calls in later, then this is what he and I are going to play. Now, of course, I'm pointing it in the wrong damn direction because I keep forgetting that everything is backwards. So let's take this off the stage. But I was so backed up on politics, and that anybody is even watching right now is shocking, truly, because not only do I not appear on Friday, but we had 1,000 live people watching yesterday because there were so many folks on from SHR. And I didn't expect, honestly, up here, I don't think you guys can see the numbers up there, but I have a smattering of people watching right now. And I grok that concept because I'm never on Saturday night, but I just had so much to say and so much stuff to just kind of get off my chest, sort of like, blah. Let's see if we can make this play. Go ahead. Stop. Let me ask you, do you think justice is coming? I can't say for sure. And if my friend deigns to call, then we will go over this particular video that he sent me. And then we'll discuss something with regard to, is justice coming? But that's not the theme of the show tonight. The show is about Trump's restoration. People say it's a counter-revolution. It's not a counter-revolution as far as I'm concerned. It's a restoration of putting America, an attempt to put America back to where it was, because it is so deep now, so lost, although the recovery is in progress, that we have to temper our expectations. But it's not, I say it's not about retribution. It's not about revenge. It is about justice and restoration. And you and I both know that what we are witnessing is completely, entirely unprecedented in modern times. It's a full and utter rewriting of American politics, much less global politics, because what is occurring on U.S. terra firma right now is being replicated to a disturbing degree as far as Europe is concerned all around the world. It's the Trump effect. And the DLG, what I call the DLG, the Demorats, leftists, and the globalists, they are shocked. They are gobsmacked. They are caught short. They are screaming like the elite little pigs that they are over the fact that their own free shit spigot is in the process of being turned to the right, literally and figuratively. It's far past high time, but the proverbial new sheriff is in town, and he is done being anybody's bitch anymore. Remind me to come back to that word, because we're going to play another video with regard to that. Donald John Trump is standing up for not just the United States of America, but the American taxpayer as well, who funds the entire planet. We've discovered this via USAID, a bunch of audits, via Doge, via the verbiage and attitudes displayed by Europe recently, the UK, the EU, regarding their own oppression of their people, their tyranny, their censorship, and their arrogance beyond belief. Ungrateful fucking whelps, about 95% of them. So let's be blunt. The only reason that the bulk of these countries exist today in any semblance of civilization is due to the blood spilled by American soldiers, the Marshall Plan, and the extreme generosity and benevolence bestowed upon these countries, not by the U.S. government, which doesn't produce any money at all, obviously, but spends it exorbitantly, but by the goodwill, sometimes voluntarily, but primarily forced onto and upon the U.S. American taxpayer. I've always said that if you want a tax revolt, I know how to do it. It's easy. Just make individuals and families pay taxes like businesses, pay quarterlies. Only then are people going to wake up and begin to realize just how much they are paying in taxes, and perhaps begin to understand the correlation between those taxes and how horribly the U.S. government pisses away the cash from which you are fleeced. The most brilliant move in the world, and I went to researching a little bit on the internet, in interwebs, because of this. One of the most brilliant moves in the world was back in 1943. It was the government's instigation of income tax withholding. That was brilliant. As late as 1939, less than 4 million individual tax returns were filed out of a population of about 140 million people. Most importantly, the total taxes owed amounted to to less than 4% of their income. Can you feature that? Can you imagine that? 4% of your total income. It was Congress who passed the Current Tax Payment Act of 1943, which required employers to withhold employee income tax. Now, fast forward to now. At slightly over 1 month, with President Trump in office, American citizens, Europe, South America, Central America, Canada, Mexico, they're finally beginning to see that not only is the free ride ending, but we want you off the damn ride and exiting the fucking amusement park. Most Ricky Tick, because for the American taxpayer and those adults currently in charge, the days of bending to the will of an overbearing DC government and to the will of those foreign nations who've been trained, they have been trained like zoo animals to open their mouths with expectant little smacking sounds and demand feeding of certain times of the day. And it has to be absolutely perfect. It has to be their way. They demand feedings at certain times. These feedings have to be packaged absolutely beautifully with only the finest cuts of meat allowed, and the animals are howling. They're yelling, they're screaming, and like baboons, they're throwing their shit right around not only their self-created cages, but at the zookeepers themselves, who cart out the prime cuts every day on schedule like clockwork. So who does that? We do. You and me, the American taxpayers. Our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars are forcibly removed from our paychecks. Our couches are turned upside down for the remaining pennies. We feed and we fund the planet, other countries, and the animal recipients complain that we don't move fast enough. We don't provide just the right napkins. We don't cut their victuals in the proper bite-sized chunks. And then they bitch about the lack of condiments. Oh, improper seasoning, not good. Poor presentation, make it look better. And insufficient deference to their important personal dietary requirements. There's a reason the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has said for multiple decades, don't feed the bears. And in the zoos, why not? Because it makes them lazy. It makes them dependent. It makes them fat and potentially really violent when they understand they're no longer getting their way. What? Me having to work now? Figure out how to provide for myself? Defend myself? No way. So, in summary, kind of like Vladimir Zelensky, they're arrogant and ungrateful motherfuckers who, as I said, have been absolutely trained by prior administrations to demand more, harder, faster, better, sooner, wider, higher quality, and, by the way, be quick about it. And when the free cheese ride is ending, when those who are paying the freight are finally beginning to say, whoa there, what the hell is going on? Why is everybody doing great, but I'm getting kicked in the nuts? How and why is that even happening? Yeah, getting kicked in the nuts by unthankful and ungracious nations, organizations, agencies all around the planet whose only rallying cry is pay more, keep the checks coming, shut up and work harder. And I am, like I hope you are, getting really damn tired of that shit, particularly in light of what's been exposed via Doge, USAID, and now peeks under the hoods and into the closets of the Social Security Administration, the Pentagon, the IRS, and the rest of the herd. Because these assholes, I had to think long and hard about this, engorged as they are on the American taxpayer dollars, are precisely like Mr. Creosote from the Monty Python film, The Meaning of Life. Because no matter how swollen no matter how sated and overstuffed they are, they always demand one more wafer-like mint. Delivered, has to be delivered on the requisite, like the silver platter, by the properly coiffed and suited butler in white gloves, perfect doily, and with absolutely extreme deference.
It's only a wafer thin.
Wafer thin?
I couldn't eat another thing. I'm absolutely stuffed. Bugger horse.
Just one.
Just one.
Just the one. Yeah. Voila.
Voila. And then
Bon appetit.
exit the U.S. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. But see, we can only hope it should truly be no shock that the zoo animals are rebelling themselves. They're throwing their own poop and that of the other outraged animals. They are all of them are Mr. Creosote, Vladimir Zelensky amongst them. And so Zelensky and the EU and the rest of the organizations, to include our very own perpetually enraged machine, the Demorats, with hands still extended to this day, to this minute, are beginning to think that the American host is becoming aware of being surrounded by all the damn parasites. Locally, here, in the state, in the county, in your community, in the nation, and all over the globe. That's accurate. Zelensky is no more different, really, than the rest of the trained barking harbor seals around the planet with their little mouths open like this. Anybody ever see Clockwork Orange and Malcolm McDowell? That's the rest of the people expecting to be fed just wonderfully. And they want it their way, every way. The corruption on every level has been so long, so deep. The time, the fraud, the waste, the abuse, so endemic. The money from hard-earned American taxpayer dollars so ridiculously, stupidly, and nonsensically spent. The amounts absolutely so staggering and incomprehensible that actual Americans are having a difficult time trying to wrap their heads around it and trying to understand how readily they've been ass-fucked for so many decades, and why to this point nobody has seemed to do anything even remotely serious about it. So why did it take Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, to ask everybody into the tent? Black, white, pink, purple, burnt umber, cerulean. He didn't care. Why did it take Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, to seal the border when everybody knew it was absolutely wide open and it had to be sealed, but nobody did a thing? It was just mouth music, flapping lips, flecks of spittle out there occasionally, but zero damn action. And why did it take Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, to examine Doge and say, great idea. Let's start cutting the fat from the agencies and these positions and start helping out the real hero. The real hero on the entire planet is the U.S., the American taxpayer. That's who needs help. Why indeed? Because everybody was sopping at the trough, both sides of the aisle, with their favorite little pet projects and pork and largesse. They were all the benefactors. Because the gaslighting, though, is starting to wear off. Have you noticed? People are beginning to see that the obvious is, in fact, the obvious right in front of their damn faces, meaning the louder that some person or group or organization or religion or NGO or some other agency complains, it's their fiscal ox getting gored. And the louder the cry, the deeper is the sword thrust, which I think is absolutely glorious, because the standard Mark I, Model 1 leftist buzzwords come flying out of their gullets again, like our democracy and unconstitutional and unfair and Hitler and dictator and we didn't elect him, and all the rest of the verbal vomitus concomitant with their massive grifts having been exposed to the light of day. And the fact that we, the American taxpayer, are finally beginning to remember to, hey, you know what we ought to do? Maybe it's time to put on our cowboy boots, like I said before, so we can squash all the roaches and the cockroaches and the beetles scurrying to the once safe corners of the realm. And now the light's on and you can see them, and there they are. Get them. So let's go back to Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky for a moment, okay? Because he had, if you think about it, a shockingly simple task yesterday. It wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult, which continues to prove that this guy is the poster child for how to fuck up a wet dream. This is all this guy had to do. It's like an interview for a well-paying job that you really want. Show up on time, wear a suit, be respectful, say yes, sir, and no, sir, answer the questions, be positive, don't try to overtalk the interviewer, don't lecture, be grateful, take your victory, no victory lap, shut up, and leave expeditiously. How tough was that? Because the employer has something that you want, that Zelensky wants. The employer is sitting in the catbird seat, not Zelensky, not anybody. A little humility goes a long way. Arrogance and confrontation gets your stupid black Castro wannabe uniform kicked out of the White House, especially if you, and I have the video of it, if you insult the vice president of the United States, calling him a bitch, suka, in Russian. Do you think I'm going to play that? Of course I am. We're going to miss the break here for a second because I'm going to continue. The break will be in about another couple of minutes. So the American media maggots, and of course the Euro slut press, were all clutching their pearls and searching for the nearest fainting couch. They had the fantods when Trump and Vance actually stood up for America. We haven't seen anybody do that in a long time. It was no more complicated than that, as far as they were concerned. Then everybody else thinks, what horrible barbarians. Well, Trump is dealing primarily with Ukraine. Zelensky, I think we're going to find out, is kind of a temporary rep. What if things were actually a bit more complicated than the DLG suspect? What if you'd never read The Art of the Deal, as I'm sure Zelensky hasn't? And what if Patton had never read Erwin Rommel's book on tank war? You've noticed a change in Trump. I'm sure he came within a fraction of being assassinated on live television last June. I think he's been a lot more circumspect, more cognizant of his mortality. And if you've noticed, a lot more deliberate and yet calmer in his speech until yesterday. So some are saying right now, oh, Trump and Vance, they're just thugs. Well, I wonder, maybe they suspected that Zelensky was going to continue to not read the room. That's what all of us concluded yesterday. 2.5 hours. Zelensky didn't read the room. He hasn't read the book. He hasn't read the prevailing political prairie winds. He hasn't read the tea leaves. They're right there, right in front of his face. He hasn't read, and he's not aware of the temper of the times. And so, because the dealio is, he managed to bulldog Joe Vegetable. And did he think that he could mastermind the situation in America's house on live television and illustrate what a forceful and powerful leader he was? So Zelensky has a goal. He wants NATO. So when he began to appeal to the emotions of the American people, J.D. Vance stepped in and accused him, rightly so, in my opinion, of disrespecting Donald Trump. This was a pretty good strategy. Now, it's important to remember that Zelensky himself is, in fact, trying to access NATO. And he doesn't give a shit about his people. A ceasefire was offered. He wasn't taking it. But remember, if Ukraine joins NATO, the U.S. would have to defend Ukraine. If Ukraine is attacked via NATO agreements, then the obligation is there. The defense of Ukraine would necessitate some kind of direct conflict with Russia. Russia not necessarily being the smoothest of strategists and kind of lacking personnel, especially these days, and equipment, would like to have China come to its aid. And I bet China would come to its aid. Now, we'd have to fight a direct war and a proxy war with both Russia and China. And Putin has indicated that Russia would never sign a peace treaty if Ukraine, it's a border state with Russia, got admitted into NATO. We got to remember that the Demorats met with Zelensky, and I'm going to have some video to show you of that and a story about that prior to yesterday's meeting live with Trump and Vance. The people that met with him before the meeting there in that room with the press, the gaggle, all there, and Ukraine's ambassador there covering, did you see her covering her head and her face with her hands as Zelensky was talking? And I'm sure all the Demorats in there were telling him, they blew up his skirts and they said, hey, what a brave and powerful man you are. Go in there and show Trump who's boss. And we saw how that came out. So will Zelensky come back with his hat in his hand? I don't think so. Will he survive politically back home in the Ukraine? Because they were making mouth music like maybe it's time to impeach this bastard. I don't know. Unknown. Who can tell these days? The ability to prognosticate stuff for the future is twofold mostly these days, with some exceptions, slim and none. So the other thing is, will we get a rare earth metals deal? And that's, Trump at one point yesterday, when he's walking out to the helicopter wearing his mega hat, started talking about Tim Cook and Apple and the $500 billion, $500 billion investment that Apple is going to be making here in the United States. And people didn't get the linkage between the two. What's the dealio between Apple and now you're talking about Zelensky? It's rare earth metals. But what happens if Apple makes that $500 billion investment and we do get some kind of an agreement with Ukraine about what's in the ground, and American corporate interests are on the ground? Russia would be actually pretty stupid to attack, not saying it wouldn't occur either, considering. So I don't think Zelensky wants to humble himself and come back. He's not going to eat crow. He's got a little guy's complex. Seen a ton of them. I bet you have too. So what he's doing right now is literally taking basically a world tour with his handout and his mouth open like this guy, and he wants to be fed like a lovely little bird. So people continue to forget about Trump's background. Negotiations are his environment. It's not about what you say immediately. It's all about the deal. It's like, read his damn book. This is all a series of steps towards a goal, a statement, a feint, a threat. He's not above making those. Maybe making good on threats. Another feint, a removal of a threat, coercion, manipulation, all the elements of making serious deals if you're a serious player. What I was thinking the other day is, it's as if the DLG, Demorats, Leftists, and Globalists, think that it's fundamentally unfair to utilize your requisite training, education, and experience over your foes or your adversaries in a given deal or a situation. It's unfair that you're smarter than they are. Everybody needs to level the playing field. No, fuck no. Everything in life is strength, coercion, politics, and manipulation. And lessons have to be learned, or you're going to be a victim in perpetuity. Woe is me. That's how life works. Because life is tough. It's tougher if you're stupid and you're unaware of reality. And that's the way that stuff rolls. So let's see, what have we got here? Oh, I missed the break. So let's do that. I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back. I'm BZ. Thanks for being here tonight. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of people watching live right now because I did this and cuddled it all up and assembled it and cobbled it together sort of at the last second. So I don't really expect that I'm going to get that many people watching live right now. However, what I would say is this: if you could, this would be really great if you could subscribe to the channel, give a big thumbs up to the program right now, subscribe to the SHR Media Group channel on Rumble, and also subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Give a big old funny, weird curve thumb kind of thing like this to me for the show. That would be really appreciated. And thanks to that. And also thanks to KLRN's Rick Robinson. He's not going to be carrying the show live, but he will, he thinks, perhaps be able to carry the show tomorrow. Now, I had an option. I could either do the show tonight or I could do it tomorrow. I'd rather have my Sunday free. So I decided that I was going to do this tonight because I just have so much stuff to share and talk about. Here's sort of an ASMR kind of thing going on that I thought was really good. This is kind of like fabulous trolling. Just kind of sit back, watch. Belly chains, leg chains. Oh, BC, shut up. Just listen. And with that, say bye-bye to whomever that happens to be. I think that's kind of a wonderful thing. Here's something that was pointed out yesterday, and it's true. Zelensky came to the White House, and the deal wasn't signed. The rare minerals deal wasn't signed. The White House said that the Ukrainians were essentially begging to reset, but Rubio and Waltz said that Zelensky needs to leave the White House. Well, they had lunch all prepared. And so what happened is that White House press office staffers literally ate Zelensky's lunch. I have to think that's a pretty good deal. Look at this. Let me see if I can make this larger. This is about 20 seconds or so. The mic captures Vladimir Zelensky calling J.D. Vance Suka under his, kind of quietly, which is, like I said, Russian for bitch, during the argument. And people expect that we're going to sit and take that. There's some comments in here that I'll get to eventually, but let's play this.
I have been to. I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour. I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr.
Well, that's great negotiation strategy right there. Wouldn't you expect? I don't speak Russian, but somebody else did. And as I mentioned before, this was a job interview. Just treat it like a job interview. And some people on CNN, I was kind of shocked to hear of this.
I don't know if he needs an apology. He needs Zelensky to recognize the position that he's in.
Which to you is what?
We're their patron. We're their best hope for the killing to stop and for them to emerge from this sovereign and prosperous. And we're also their best hope as a business partner. I mean, all Zelensky had to do today was put on a tie, show up, smile, say thank you, sign the papers, and have lunch. That's it. And he couldn't do that. And this followed 10 days of being difficult in private and now 1 day of being stupid in public. This did not have to go down this way.
No, of course it didn't.
And however you feel about why it started, why it's going on, who's right and who's wrong, we can help them in this and come out okay on the other side, and he's making it hard.
Now, first of all,
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I actually agree with Scott. And everything that he said was basically right.
It's like when people say that, I kind of go back to this. It's like, are you kidding me? Well, no, I'm not kidding.
I know I'm going to get killed on social media for admitting that, but so be it. And the fact is that it doesn't matter whether Vice President Vance planned it or just took the opportunity to bait Zelensky. Zelensky took the bait, okay? Yeah. And he shouldn't have. He made a mistake.
Well, it's a serious mistake. This is world politics. This is geopolitics. You can't afford to be stupid. Now, then I was thinking Bret Baier was scheduled to talk to Zelensky afterwards, and I thought he turned down some appearance someplace before Bret Baier, and I thought, okay, well, is he going to appear on Bret Baier? And how is this going to go? Because Bret Baier can kind of run hot and cold sometimes. So let's listen, because Bret Baier presented, in my opinion, a whole bunch of opportunities for Zelensky to maybe regroup or reset.
I tried 3 times to make sure he was understanding exactly what I was saying. Mark Thiessen said it was like watching a man drowning who was not taking the life preserver. He did not apologize. He regretted that it happened. He said it was bad and that it was bad for the Ukrainian people that happened in front of the media. But he did not read the room. He didn't read the room here in the interview.
Zero.
And he didn't read the room in the Oval Office. Maybe he thought it was similar to negotiating with President Biden and talking like he was talking to President Biden. Obviously, President Trump is a much different president, and Vice President Vance is a much different vice president. And the fact that it happened in front of cameras, I think, really was a bad moment for everybody.
I don't think it was necessarily
not a bad moment for the president, but a bad moment for Zelensky.
For Zelensky, for Europe, I think it was terrible. I mean, however, President Trump was the only guy that would be able to get Putin to the negotiating table. Now, I know before this meeting that 10 U.S. senators met with Zelensky, and they told him this is going to be a 3-step process.
Do we know what they told him? I'm not sure. I can't say for certain.
You're going to sign the mineral deal today. You're going to be appreciative of the mineral deal. That'll ensure U.S. presence in your country. That will help you. The president will advocate for European troops that will be there for part security reasons. That was discussed this morning as well. The second phase of this would hopefully be a ceasefire, and maybe that could have possibly maybe happened today. And then after that, a negotiated settlement, which would have been the hardest part. So it's not like he went in there today not knowing what the agenda was.
And I asked him specifically that because I had the same intel that not only did the senators say that, including Senator Graham, but also the White House, and in their interactions with the Ukrainians, have been saying it for days and weeks, saying that this is a
3
step
weeks
in the process. You do the minerals deal first, and then we talk about the negotiation going forward, what the security guarantee looks like. And that's really what he wanted to talk about again and again, which was the security guarantee, which, listen, he said it probably 5, 6, 7 times in my interview.
What now I'm kind of asking you to give a little analysis based on everything that you know and your exclusive interview tonight. What happens if the U.S. stops providing money to Ukraine?
Well, stop right here. We know exactly what's going to happen. What happened today? There was a little jaunt that occurred. And there it is. So Zelensky went to the UK, and Starmer essentially bent over for that little Ukrainian fraud. And he got a commitment for 2.6 billion pounds, not dollars. So that's actually more dollars, close to $3 billion. There's his plane. It's an Airbus A319, I think. So he flies from here back to the UK and chats with Starmer. Well, what's happened is the UK then agreed to fund him loans and aid because Zelensky found himself another sugar daddy in Keir Starmer in the UK.
Her kommer de altså den britiske statsministeren sammen med Zelensky, den ukrainske presidenten, som omtrent halvannen time har møter her i Street. De har snakket om selvfølgelig den situasjonen som da har oppstått.
And there we go. It's like, who love you, baby? Who love you? I love you because you're giving me money. So let's see. Somebody in chat, Thousand Eyes, said, hey, love the show. Got some questions. Is belittling and berating the trade partner in the art of the deal? What trade partner? You talking about Zelensky? We should opt out of NATO. I'm not sure yet. We'll wait and see. I don't think that's a definite no. If you don't want to give Ukraine any more money, I understand that. But why are you generating the victim? Denigrating the victim. Well, let's go from there. Ukraine has always been the Eurotrash laundromat from everywhere. Now, of course, I know in Ukraine was Chernobyl, the meltdown. The people were absolutely screwed over by the Russians in terms of that. But Ukraine became the little playground that everybody who wanted to fuck around and find out went to. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for the Ukrainians because a country is no better than its leaders. Stop, BZ. It's like, where's my sympathy for Hamas? Don't got none. Because the people that are there elected Hamas. And this guy, and again, let's go back. Oh, it's all on Trump. It's all on Trump. He's such a barbarian. What did Obama do when Putin went into Crimea? He drew a red line, and then that meant nothing. Oh, in terms of aid, he gave them blankets. I'm sure they love that. More blankets. Why? Ukrainians do need to be warm. So you're no better than your surrounding government, like San Francisco or Portland or Seattle. If you keep electing these stupid shit sticks again and again, and you put up with this stuff, then don't be surprised when you keep getting the same. And so my sympathy for Hamas and Gaza is zero. None. Ukraine was Biden's laundromat as well. Biden did nothing to help Ukraine except give them all the money that they wanted. So Putin is bad. Okay. I guess there has to be ongoing, what's the group? I can't think of the group that it's constant contrition, slapping and spiking the back. So there has to be constant contrition. Like Trump had to be constantly contrite with regard to Charlottesville. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The one time, however, that an act of contrition or humility might have gone a long way was in public, in front of Trump, in the Oval Office. Because this guy Zelensky absolutely snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. All he had to do is take a big cup of shut the fuck up, little man, and you'll get what you want. But he had to open his mouth. And everybody knows you don't do that in negotiations. Now, if you want to have a serious conversation with F and S words and throw word bolts back and forth at each other, do that in private. But if you're in public and you actually want something from someone, insulting them and arguing with them in public is not the route to go to. That's not what you do. And so in terms of, is it denigrating? Well, two need to play on that. It takes two to tango. You didn't know, Zelensky was handheld for 3 weeks to come here. And the funny thing is that he wasn't interested in a ceasefire at all. And who else is going to negotiate for Russia, with Russia? Is it going to be the UK? Is it going to be the EU? Is it going to be Brussels? Is it going to be Ukraine all by itself? Who are they going to get to sit down and do a deal? You had all of this in your hand and you screwed things over. Dude, you do not fuck with people in their own home. That's in the art of the deal as well. Look, it's just complete common sense. You just don't do that. Let's go to a break a little bit early. And like I say, if you need to use the electric Winkle chamber, go ahead and do that. And we'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional. but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And it's the first hour down the drink already. How the hell does that happen? The individual who I was speaking to earlier, who does not need to identify themselves. If you're interested, there's the number down below. Give me a call and we'll chat about that video that I find very interesting, because we had a select and exclusive conversation about things that are going on in the background right now. Very, very interesting things. Lindsey Graham, the biggest war hawk you can possibly feature, essentially said that he was proud of Trump and Vance with the way that they handled Zelensky. And with Graham, I think it's because Graham tends to take things really personal. You know, not my favorite guy, really rhino. And I think he helped to try to set up Ukraine, never met a war that he didn't want to put American soldiers into. And I think he got offended. He said it's long past time for the Europeans to show they're capable of defending their own continent. I would agree. I talked about that in the first hour. They've allowed their militias, their militaries, to be hollowed out. And when Europe speaks, no bad guy listens. That was the same damn thing that was occurring under Joe Biden. He's about as impressive as a bottle of water. And perhaps the bottle of water was a hell of a lot more useful. And to think that Lindsey Graham actually said this, I say with great sadness, the last group of people that I would count on to defend freedom are the Europeans. That's a really sad state of affairs. But Lindsey Graham takes things personally. And I think he took that personally, like he took this personally.
What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You said that.
This is about Kavanaugh.
Not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy.
He took it personally, and I think he took it personal with Zelensky. He wanted to see him succeed, and the little guy just couldn't find it within himself to do that. And here's this. This is Zelensky meeting with the Demorats. Let me see if I can throw this up on the stage right now. I don't know if you can hear anything.
Thank you so much.
So, big team. Very good to see you. How are you? Hi.
Oh, Klobuchar, of course. Yes, we love Zelensky. Huh, Democrats, mostly Democrats.
Happy to see you. We know each other. It's not the first meeting, and I'm very proud that Ukraine
all
has
Democrats.
Such big strategic, even not partner, not only partner, friend like the United States. So we are very thankful for this.
We're here today as a show of support. We have committee chairs.
And so there we have it. Now, who knows what was said after the cameras went away? Nobody knows. But what occurred is Dude, you could have had everything you wanted, or a good portion of everything you wanted. And then what about the Logan Act? Let's go here. Remember, everybody accused most everyone in the Trump administration of violation of Logan Acts. Well, what about Susan Rice?
During our ongoing coverage, former United States Ambassador to the United Nations, former National Security Advisor to President Obama, Ambassador Susan Rice is here. Ambassador, your reaction.
Okay, let me read this. It's being reported Susan Rice, along with Anthony Blinken, Victoria Nuland, and Alexander Vindman, advised Zelensky to stand tall in his meeting with Trump. Now, what's the Logan Act? That's people that are not in the government attempting to negotiate on behalf of the government when they don't have that ability and that authority to be able to do so.
Well, Nicole, obviously it's a very sad day and an embarrassment for the United States on the world stage. But let's step back and analyze what's happened here. I think there's no question that this was a setup. You heard Donald Trump say at the end of that clip you played, this is great television.
It's great television because Zelensky happened to make it great television. That's pretty obvious. So what is the master class? Who leads the master class? And who speaks? The Secretary of State speaks for the United States, in this case, Marco Rubio.
Thank you so much, Secretary Rubio, for being here. We just heard from President Zelensky. He said he does not think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today.
Of course not.
Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see. You guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine, which to me, as I've explained, and I think the president alluded to today, is a security guarantee in its own way, because we're involved. It's now us. It's our interests. That was all explained. That was all understood. And nonetheless, for the last 10 days, in every engagement we've had with the Ukrainians, there's been complications in getting that point across, including the public statements that President Zelensky has made. But they insisted on coming to D.C. This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington. And there was should have been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create a scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work. President Zelensky took it in that direction, and it ended in a predictable outcome as a result. It's unfortunate.
Let me stop it right here. All of it was on Zelensky's shoulders. It really is, and truly, no more complicated than that. Now, I said I have a ton of happy stories. I have another thing that I'd like to read to everybody. Sackhead Sean Lewis is a member of SHR, the SHR Media Network. And he and Sackhead Clint started the network, and I joined in. That was back in 2017. Sean has his own show now, back on SHR, called The Edge of Liberty, and you heard the promo for it during the break. Sean wrote this, and in case it happens to be too small, and or you're listening audio only, perhaps on Spreaker or on another podcast, I will read this for you. And Sackhead Sean has his show, The Edge of Liberty. It's changed. It's on Monday and Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern. Monday and Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern. That's the Edge of Liberty. And if you want to find him on Twitter, on X, he is at Tue, the number 2, against tyranny. What he writes is this: I see many support Ukraine advocates arguing that endlessly pouring money and weapons into the conflict is the only way to end the war. Ukraine is running out of soldiers. soldiers who, as I've said before, have fought admirably despite the limited numbers. But even if they had all the arms in the world, what good is it if there's nobody left to wield them? Russia is also suffering militarily, but they've been tapping into North Korea for more bodies. Now, I say bodies because Russia treats its soldiers like cannon fodder. With their vastly larger population, they can sustain a war of attrition far longer than Ukraine can. So tell me, how is this a winning strategy? For the sake of the discussion, I'll set aside the massive cost to the American taxpayer. If Ukraine runs out of soldiers, Sean asks, okay, what next? So the obvious answer is, oh, well, we need more bodies. Ground wars require people to fight them. Where will those bodies come from? Let's say Putin is as unhinged as some on the left claim. I'd argue he's evil, not necessarily insane. If other countries step in with troops to turn the tide, what happens if, in his desperation, he resorts to tactical nuclear strikes to secure victory? That risks escalating into a much larger conflict. This war never should have happened, but weakness from the EU, the UK, and the previous US administration allowed it to unfold. And so here we are. Correct. That's the case from those pushing for more funding to prolong the war. But what about an alternative? What if we broker a deal involving Ukraine's mineral resources? It could bring peace with the assurance that American interests, workers, and security forces are invested in Ukraine. This would create a stronger deterrent against Putin trying again in a few years. Moreover, Russia would need years to rebuild what it's lost in this invasion. If we imposed crippling sanctions and embargoes from the start, as Biden should have, Putin might not even live long enough to oversee another attempt. Just because the U.S. has historically thrown money at wars doesn't mean it's the right solution. Yeah, I would definitely tend to agree with that. And the UK and the EU have said, United States of America, how despicable you are. You are, in fact, turning off the spigot. And now we don't like you anymore. How shocking that is, that we're not loved, when in fact, we were never loved. We're not loved. See, people resent being given things for free, and they'll fight you all the way. A beautiful example would be a drowning man. You're there to save him, but he's going to try to take you down in the same fashion as well. Europe, if you love Ukraine and the UK, he's in your backyard. Putin's in your backyard. Germany seems to love Russia. They certainly love Russia's fuel. So if you're going to do a dance on a tight little fence, on a razor blade, then you can fund Ukraine. It's not in our backyard. It's in your backyard. But wait, if we turn off the USAID spigot, you're going to have to come up with more money, with potentially having to sacrifice your own wonderful, wonderful social programs that you crow endlessly about and belittle us as not having, because the tax dollars that we're shipping over to you, you use them for those social programs, and we protect your ass as well. The days of that have to stop. Let me repeat, the days of that have to stop. That is not sustainable. That is completely unsustainable. Jeremy Hansen, welcome. Thanks for being here. So if you love Ukraine, if you want Ukraine, start taking money from your taxpayers and throwing it at Ukraine. We're not talking percentile, like NATO a percentile. Obviously, we pay a shit ton more money for NATO. Start doing your own stuff. But I also told you this, didn't I? I said we'd have to do this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Here's a happy story. The racists are coming out all over.
Praying for me all week. You've been nervous all week, but I ain't afraid of the spooks that sat at the door. These runaway slaves hiding in the White House gonna throw my picture up thinking that I'm gonna be afraid.
Oh, let's see. Let me give you a little context. This is Pastor Jamal Bryant, who's saying that any black individual who's a conservative or a Republican, they're the spooks.
If you got real courage, don't show my picture. Show the picture of the one that fired the black Joint Chief of Staff from the military.
Again, another racist. All this guy sees is melanin, melanin, melanin. And like I've said, if there's one thing that's been clear, and that's why this is a happy story, is these shit sticks are outing themselves. This is a black racist man who sees nothing but the color of skin. With him, it's paint job, paint job, paint job. And he, unlike MLK Jr., he doesn't give a shit about the content of your character. He just sees, do you match?
If you're going to show a picture of the CEO of Target, Walmart, McDonald's, and Amazon that does not recognize black dollars or black business. If you're going to put up a picture of the state legislators in Florida that are banning black books. If you're going to put up the picture of the one who is stealing classified information from the IRS and Social Security. If you gonna put up a picture of those that don't want your mama to pay $35 for insulin and your child to pay $35 for inhaler.
Because those are only black problems, right? Everyone targets the blacks. Everybody. Stop being a fucking victim.
If you gonna put up a picture of those that are jailing children and separating families. I ain't ever scared. In case you forgot, I'm from the west side of Baltimore.
No one gives a shit. But like I say, the good part is the racists are outing themselves. That's a great story. Here's another story that you're not going to hear.
New information tonight related to a triple stabbing. 3 family members died Friday morning, and new tonight we have learned the youngest victim was 4 years old. One was 13 years old, and the third victim was their 77-year-old grandmother. The man charged with going on the violent rampage appeared in front of a judge today. WRAL's Carly Haynes was there and joins us now live in Fayetteville. Carly, it was a very short court appearance, but we learned more about what happened.
This is a local story that should have gone national, but the American media maggots didn't have the balls.
Happened.
A lot more. Mekendi Darbouzi received no bond, so he will remain in jail. This was very disturbing information that we learned from this court appearance. And once again, these details disturbing. These are very serious charges. So Darbouzi could face life in prison or even the death penalty. In chains, Mekendi Darbouzi stood in the courtroom, stoic as the details of the deadly stabbing he's accused of were revealed.
I've been prosecuting 25 years, and this case is as bad as any I've heard about, so it's extremely disturbing facts.
District Attorney William West says Darbouzi is charged with fatally stabbing his extended relatives multiple times inside this home Friday. A 4-year-old, 13-year-old, and a 77-year-old. West said Darbouzi opened the door when police arrived, blood on his face, hands, and clothes.
They also were able to find a weapon in Mr. Darbouzi's room.
West said a baby and 2 other children were there at the time, all uninjured. One had called 911. Home security video also showed Darbouzi walking through the home with a knife. Property records showed Darbouzi, a Haitian national, had lived at the home for about a year.
As far as we...
Stop. Right there. A Haitian national. He's not a U.S. national. How'd he get here? With the ability to stab and kill children. How did that happen? How many dead bodies do we have to lay at the feet of Joe Biden? How many dead bodies do we have to lay at the feet of Demorats and the leftists and the globalists? And the idea apparently is a hell of a lot more than are occurring right now. That's why the American media maggots, why this story was kept local and it didn't go national, because, well, that just wouldn't be in keeping with making sure that all immigrants are lovely, warm, fuzzy people that are simply wanting to escape oppression. And then, of course, now there's China. We'll get back to happy stories. Taiwan detains a Chinese crude cargo ship after an undersea cable is damaged. Back up now. Let's talk a little bit about global implications for this. China's economy is not the strong tiger that everyone suspects it is. If you want to find out what's going on in China, go to Gordon Chang, a serious professional with a background in China itself. A great guy from which to get information. And China is gathering up itself in order to seriously consider an invasion into Taiwan. Who's the greatest chip maker on the entire planet? Well, that would be in Taiwan. Not us. It was us at one point. So what is China attempting to do? Sever communications between the mainland and Taiwan. If you can isolate a victim, then you can more readily attack them. I see contre-attempts in the future. I see this coming. And this is one in a continuing series of moves that people should be aware of in terms of understand what's happening, not just on your block, not just in your state, not just in DC, but all around the planet. And of course, lawfare. Activist judge who blocked Trump's spending freeze has hidden money ties. Federal Judge John McConnell failed to disclose his role at Crossroads, Rhode Island, while ruling against Trump's freeze. Oh, look, his nonprofit received $128 million in government funding during his 18-year board tenure, including $42 million from 2020 to 2023. Oh, that's no motivation whatsoever. The judge ordered federal funds to keep flowing to states. And coincidentally, that money keeps flowing to his nonprofit. But that's not lawfare at all, is it? Here's Germany. Remember I showed you the German crying after being taken to task by VP JD Vance. German chancellor, because this guy became the German chancellor, rejects Trump, accuses U.S. of Russian-style election interference, calls for independence from America, to which I say, yes, become independent. Fund all this stuff yourself and lick the scrotal sack of Russia, because they hold everything over you, Germany, Deutschland, you boogers. Because that's where you get your fuel. That's where you get your energy. So you want to be independent, shut up and do it. Okay, it's time for this again, because here's where we start back up.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
About 5 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break, and then last half hour of the show. Joe Biden. Now, remember, everybody said, oh, Elon Musk and his 19-year-old little twerps, they're being given access to things that no one should have access to, except Joe Biden gave 53 researchers and student volunteers access to IRS data. That's your data. That's my data. No problemo. You hypocrites. And again, see, this is the internet. This is why I love the internet, because if you actually have a curious mind in any fashion whatsoever, then you can find this stuff. Because if I find this stuff, anybody can find this stuff. I'm a fat, ancient, fuzzball moron when it comes to technology. But I can find it. And if I can, you can too. But you have to want to. And there's the huge difference as well. Here's another happy story. Doge's U.S. worker purge has created a spike in insider risk. Now, look at how this is manipulated. Do you see how it's manipulated for the CIA and the people that have been working against the American taxpayer for literally decades? Doge's U.S. worker purge has created a spike in insider risk. Well, what do they mean? Well, you're creating hatred in the people that you're firing. And let's see, what did Chuck Schumer say? Chuck Schumer said something similar to, well, if you piss off the CIA, they have 1,000 ways to screw you over. Well, that was actually accurate. The CIA is the deep state. Presidents come and go. Vice presidents come and go like underwear. Senators, Congress critters, they kind of come and go like changing underwear. But the people that really run the country are the deep state. They're the fourth branch of government because quite frequently they are running all this stuff. And they believe they have the right to tell everyone what to do. Go back to the CIA. People are saying, well, we're creating a crisis where these people are going to want to rat and disclose classified information. Summarily firing workers who have access to national secrets, that's creating a nearly unprecedented environment for classified data exposure, writes CIA, blah, 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 blah. So that means that you and I should be making sure that we continue the flow of spice in perpetuity, because otherwise bad shit could potentially occur. And that's a great reason to make sure that nothing happens, nothing occurs, the apple cart is never upset, and that no one is accountable for anything in any way. No one is responsible. No one can ever be pinned down. But again, as I said in the first hour, shut up, sit down, keep paying, keep writing the checks. Otherwise, well, purposely, we're going to go after you. Marsha Blackburn requests unredacted Epstein logs from Kash Patel. My friend has not called in, so I think perhaps it's time for me to just go ahead and play this. Because I said and I theorized that somebody somewhere is going to make this play. And it's occurring in the FBI right now. This is what my friend and I were going to talk about. One of the things that I said was the FBI will not want to relinquish any of these records because they're going to make the claim that Epstein was really working for them, that he was in the process of exposing all these pedos so that can be held over them in terms of negotiation for intelligence on other people, aspects, and organizations. So the FBI, I suspect, was going to make the claim that we can't give you this. There are too many important names in here, and we're still working these cases. We're working these cases like crazy. Well, so here's Sean Ryan. Let's listen and see if Sean Ryan has anything to say.
His dad was an Israeli spy.
Yes.
Who was running logistics for Jeffrey Epstein.
No. So, okay, Ghislaine Maxwell was this British chick that was screwing Epstein along with Epstein screwing everyone else.
He was a spy for sure. And then he had a huge publishing empire.
But his daughter was running logistics for Jeffrey
Epstein, yes.
Who has been named by government officials
As-
that he's untouchable because he's in intelligence.
Yes.
There's a line
There's
right
a
there.
Maxwell had a yacht called Lady Ghislaine, which was named after his daughter, Ghislaine, who was his favorite child. And he jumped off one day. He had a very mysterious death, much like Jeffrey Epstein.
So Maxwell's dad was an Israeli spy.
Yes.
Who was running logistics for Jeffrey Epstein.
No.
No.
So he was a spy for sure. And then he had a huge publishing empire.
But his
So do you understand where this is going? Where it's going is, what I suspect is that Bondi hasn't come out and said anything, but I think Bondi made a terrible error. One of the terrible errors that she made was saying something similar to, it will all come out. And then Kash Patel came in. So I think what's occurring is it's like a duck in a pond by itself. And it's fairly tranquil on the top. But there's a shit fuck amount of paddling going on underneath. So the hate and discontent, I believe, is occurring between the DOJ and the FBI. And the other thing, the other individual who is obstructing a good portion of this is the ADIC. Somehow that's appropriate, don't you think? The ADIC is the assistant director in charge of the FBI New York office. Well, who is that guy? This is the guy that's making sure that the documents that have been requested don't get anywhere. Now, like this, well, is it intelligence? Is that Epstein's involvement? He was covering. He's upgrading. He's uprooting. He's trying to make sure that he's working for the United States. In the meantime, he's fucking the shit out of little girls. And he's enabling all these other people to get into his domain because allegedly what he's doing is taping all of these people to be used against them. And so what this tells you is that the names in the book, the flight logs don't really mean much of anything. But the names in the book and OMG, the videos that must be replete in someone's box somewhere in the FBI. Apparently, this James Dennehy guy, who's the ADIC, the assistant director in charge of the New York field office. This is who he is, and this is his motivation. In February 2025, Dennehy told staff they're in the midst of a battle as the Trump administration carries out a purge of the agents who investigated the January 6th Capitol insurrection. That, by the way, is a massive simplification of what's going on. We already know that the FBI was involved deep up to their tits in January 6th. Ray Epps. Oh, don't mention Ray Epps. What is wrong with you? Ricky Robinson, good to see you here. Unleash Jeremy Hansen also as well. And Lost Wanderer, of course, is there. And Cheetah, thank you for being here. Lost Wanderer was talking about if we can mine Greenland. And my thought is, why stop at Greenland? Let's send some atomics to the moon and blow up the moon and then mine all the shit that's there. Oh, BZ, you are a nut. Come on. Get serious. But I'm telling you, there is a huge, an absolute, I worked for the FBI long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. There is a huge battle going on right now between the DOJ and the FBI, the underlying subcurrent is this guy Dennehy is going to hold his mud. I'm telling you right now, he is going to hold his mud. And he's not going to relinquish any information without a fight because, like Comey, he believes he's right. Well, Comey was a massive leftist. So was Ray. Kash Patel, not so much. But this guy Dennehy, as to what he supports, you can clearly see, yeah, him too. So they, the FBI and the DOJ, are in a situation that they have never encountered before. Because when the FBI recommended to the AG at the time, I keep saying Lois Lerner, but it's not Lois Lerner. It was the black chick who was the AG under Obama. And she met in the airplane with Clinton. And they talked about their grandchildren. Bullshit. Excuse me. Nobody knows what to do. Dennehy is going to hold his mud, and I'm not sure Bondi knows exactly what to do. Because the question becomes, what happens if this guy Dennehy, who has something physical, it has some amount of physicality to it, videos, digital videos, thumb drives, logs, names, a book. There has to be some sort of physicality to it. So it's got to be kept somewhere. A laptop, all of those things kept to protect. But always ask, cui bono, who benefits in terms of money, power, or control. But I go back to my original speculation. What happens if this guy says, nope? And Bondi says, you're turning that stuff in, or there's going to be a serious problem. Nope. You know, it's like, okay, what are you going to do about it? What's to keep anyone in the FBI on the 7th floor from taking all of that information, putting it into a box, finding a storage unit somewhere outside of New York, and just putting a lock on it, sticking it though, and there's only 3 people that know where that is. And they just hide it. And they're not going to tell you. So what do? The guy that I was talking to earlier, I said, you know what? 101st Airborne. Because this is truly unprecedented. And people are starting to get, they are pissed right now. They're very upset. The promise was made by Bondi that we'll get to the bottom of this. And so now you have this really strange kind of triangle between Kash Patel, the FBI director, this guy Dennehy in New York. We know his background. We know who he is already. We know his influence. He's a leftist, and he believes that these are his philosophies, and therefore they need to be the philosophies of the entire FBI. So Kash Patel was sent a letter by Bondi saying something similar to produce it. And Kash Patel, I'm sure, has had some conversations with the New York field office. And we're not going to hear anything of this. Because how easy would it be to just make that shit disappear? So what will it take? Because it's like somewhere there has to be an end to this. Somewhere, sometime, somebody has to get physical. It's like the big dude that was selling cigarettes, what they call onesies, out of a bodega in the city of New York. And the guy that owns the bodega has to pay taxes on his cigarettes. So he calls the NYPD and says, look, there's a guy bigfooting my business, selling cigarettes for no taxes, undercutting my prices, and he's right outside right there. Dude is killing my business. Now, the NYPD, should they have said, I'm sorry, your taxes don't mean squat and we're not responding. So then it gets to the point where you walk up to whomever, stop doing that. No, I refuse. Then what do? The FBI, no, I refuse. Do you turn around and walk away? Because if you turn around and walk away, everybody is going to start doing that. And there is no respect for orders or the rule of law. If the DOJ and the Attorney General, your boss, tells Kash Patel, the boss of the FBI, and Kash Patel tells the assistant director in charge of the New York field office, Dennehy, bring all the stuff, be in my office, and Dennehy refuses, then what? Then what do? It's the same situation. You either make something happen or you just turn around and walk away. And then nothing really means much of anything anymore. Let's see if we can go to more stories. And we talked about the Epstein logs. Today's Saturday. Tomorrow, obviously, Sunday. Monday, which will be the 3rd, I believe. March already. My God, what is happening? But what happens on Monday? Will we see anything on Monday? Will there be any result on Monday? Because at this point, citizens like you and me are expecting things to happen. We made sure that when we elected certain individuals, that we elected them to do our bidding. And we're being obstructed at every turn. And so I understand. I get it. It's only a month and a week or so into Trump's business. It's early, way early, but this is going to have to resolve itself. Or I may understand because I worked there. Other people may understand because they're willing to wait a little bit more time. But some other people who made their vote predicated upon things like this may begin to say, my support is going to dwindle. I know how stupid that sounds so early, so quickly. But you can never count on people to make sense. Will we see anything on Monday as a result of any of this? Because what's at stake is potentially the implosion of the United States of America. Oh, BZ. What hyperbole. That's just nuts. Okay, well, let's do what I call the logical extension. Let's say that there is a list with lots of people on it. And those people are big names. Let's say they're politicians and judges and people of note and celebrities and people who are so potentially insulated that they believe themselves and are being supported in terms of untouchability. This cadre of people, they're untouchable. And let's say their names get out and they're everywhere. They're inserted in every bit of fabric of society. Banking, institutions, law enforcement, politics, judges, politicians, local and national. And then they all get revealed. They get revealed that they're They're pedos. And they're not anything like you think they are. Then what happens when, let's say, somehow it gets out, and then people begin to realize this is all smoke and mirrors. Do we have a country? Do we have any morality? What do we have as a result of this? And then you have a lack of confidence. If there's a shit ton of people that are in law enforcement, then you lose confidence in law enforcement. If there's a shit ton of people that are in the judiciary, then you lose even more confidence in the judiciary. Politicians, even a greater loss of confidence. In banking, in finance, in medicine, the potentiality is really big here. And if it crumbles in the United States can't help but affect everything else. I had somebody here earlier who said they were kind of supporting Ukraine. And then this is a new individual, Pierogi. Pierogi, by the way, if you guys are not familiar, is a wonderful pastry dish that is created in Russia. That when I lived in San Francisco, I knew this little bakery to go to where they had great pierogi. And so I guess that's his name. Zelensky's on drugs. I wouldn't be surprised. Would anybody else be surprised? Asking for money for a pointless war takes the money away from hungry people. Yes, and Zelensky had the opportunity to have a ceasefire and pissed it away. Cheetah says, this whole thing is telling. He's a great example of the grift, but see, that's such a minuscule portion of the grift that's going on all throughout the world that's being exposed. It also reminds me of the leftists who are whining like babies about Musk and Doge. Yep, spoke about that. The younger generation knows what France is doing. I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about there. And then you mentioned NATO. A big part of this is the administration exposing Zelensky for who he really is. Yes, as I spoke about in the first hour and earlier. Oh my God. Of course, would you be surprised? No, you wouldn't be surprised. I haven't gotten through a fraction of the stuff that I was here to talk about. And I thank everybody for being here. But it was just one of those funny Saturday night shows where I had so much backed up. I mean, I had so much politics backed up, it was even giving me gas. I was driving the dogs crazy. And of course, Mrs. BZ as well. So I had to get it out. And here we are. But I said this was a time for happy stories, didn't I? And I showed you about the racist pastor, Jamal. And here's a happy story. Someone got fired.
My show had value. And that, I'm sorry. That what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV.
Yeah, because being a racist has value. You know who it has? Who being a racist has value to? Yeah, that's right, another racist.
And I think this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. And then it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. Where I land is that the moment of guilt that I felt, that I went hard on so many issues, whether it was the Black Lives Matter issues of a young baby or a mom or a dad that was killed, or when we opened up people's eyes to the fact that Asian Americans were being targeted and not just Black folks
Okay, stop right there. If you're going to bring that up, you brought up that topic, you opened the door. I'm going to walk through that. Who were the people that were targeting Asians, especially in San Francisco? Blacks. So careful, racist. what doors you open. Until everyone is equal, no one is equal. And certainly no one is equal right here, right now in the United States. Let's go here. This comes as no surprise. These were spontaneous protests against Doge and the oppressive Hitlerian Elon Musk, who isn't even a United States citizen. How could he possibly be in here? He's the epitome of Hitler. All those were funded by left-wing groups, ultimately funded by George Soros. But that was tough to see, wasn't it? I'm sure it was. George Soros, CIA, is still in Ukraine. Yeah, along with all the USAID-funded media organizations in Ukraine. I think the estimation was about 90% of the media organizations in Ukraine are funded by USAID. Africans and British created racism. Perhaps, but I go with this. Because this is true, and people seem to forget this. There's still slavery today. There's human trafficking all around the United States of America. And let's go back to, Africa. And let's say white people were purchasing black people by the ton, lining them up like herring in ships and transporting them all over, which they were and which they did. But you seem to forget this, because the white Americans involved at the time and the white British and the other whites involved, they didn't live in Africa. They came to visit, to make a purchase. So what everyone forgets is for every purchaser, there needs to be a seller. Who was selling? Whom? Let's go to another story, which I think is nice. You got to take your victories while you can and where you can. Judge denies Associated Press emergency motion to restore White House access. Because it's not a matter of stopping you from printing anything. The White House isn't stopping AP from printing anything or writing anything. They're just saying, this room right in here belongs to us. You can write anything you want. You just can't have a seat right now. That's all. Happy story. Move on. San Francisco Asian workers tell local news why they are walking away from Democrats. Democrats are making America like a sinking ship, a local resident said. Asian Americans in liberal San Francisco are speaking out about how members of their community, ranging from Trump supporters to left-leaning organizers, are leaving the modern Democratic Party. But I can't imagine, why can you? Because they're not being represented. Party of the workers? No. Party of filling their own pockets? Oh my God, yes. Angry donors, another happy story. Angry donors turn off money flow to hopeless Democrats. I'm going to have to rush through these things now. How about another one? Undocumented immigration has plummeted by 98% from 4 key countries, which tells you only one thing. If within the span of less than a month, this stemming occurred, then it could have occurred all along, and Biden and the Biden regime allowing this to occur because they could have stopped it was abso-fucking-lutely 100% intentional. Duh. Most of Rachel Maddow's and Joy Reid's staff to be cut amidst MSNBC's programming shakeup. I see that Sean is in the room. Thanks for being here. And essentially what Sean said earlier in any number of shows was, You know what this is? MSNBC is going to get divested from Comcast. And all these people that are getting kicked to the curb, these people are not making bank. They're not making. Joy Reid, why did you get fired? It isn't because you're a racist. You're a naked racist. MSNBC didn't give a shit about that. All they cared about was the lucre. You weren't making bank for them. And that's enough right there to kick your ass to the curb. This is also a happy story. I'll tell you a little about this. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, I found and fired some leakers. There's going to be more. Now, the leakers in terms of leaking information for ICE raids, making it much more dangerous for law enforcement officers to go into certain areas to make sure that they can snatch people who are lawbreakers and or criminals because they're going to get snatched first. So it's not about the power of the purse. What you did, if you were with any kind of an intelligence agency, when you signed your little contract and you got your clearance, because people at DHS, they got to have clearances depending on what they do. When you sign that, you also give up the right for a certain amount of privacy, and you get to be polygraphed. There was a time that was cyclical that every once in a while you got polygraphed just on account of because. And now she's targeting by way of polygraphers, and I hope using both polygraph and CVSA to make sure that the leakers are found out. And just stop with firing. How about let's see some damn prosecutions from this stuff? We're salivating to see that. Supreme Court hands Trump his first win over the $1.5 billion USAID payment freeze. So Trump froze payments. It got taken to court. And at this point, the Supreme Court said, yeah, you have the ability to do that, which beggars another question, which I'm going to have to look into. Let me get this off the screen just for a second, and I'll throw it out there. Because perhaps there are individuals, this is going to be the last question that I have for the show, because I am going to wrap it up in about 2 or 3 minutes or so. And the question is this, because I don't know. With luck, somebody knows, and or I'll have to investigate it myself because, I got fingers and an internet. And look, hey, I got a keyboard too. So that means I can find shit that the American media maggots refuse to. But the question is, how can a judge in a given district across the United States come up with an edict that affects the entire United States itself and not just that district? How does that happen? So I want to find out. It would seem, if you're thinking logically, that if a given judge in a given district, federal district, judicial district, makes a ruling, it should apply to that district and not all across the entire nation. And yet, that's apparently not how these things are working right now. Hey, Cheetah made a very important point. The electric Winkle chamber now comes with a free penicillin shot. I'm still staying anyway. See, who says that I don't love all the people in chat? Who says that I don't love all the people that come and watch this show live right now? And also to the people that watch in podcast a little bit later. And then, of course, Sean said, a free shot of penicillin, you say? Well, excuse me just for a moment. I'm going to be leaving. I had a great time doing this show. If you want to find out what the show was like last night, when myself and Sean, Jersey Joe, and Earl, Big E, and Rick Robinson, when we spoke about the Zelensky incident, it was a great show, 2.5 hours. I would highly recommend it. And as I indicated at the very beginning of this show, at one point, we had 1,000 people watching that show live. Hey, this is interesting. James Harbin. I haven't seen that name before. So welcome to chat, and thank you for being here, and thanks for being in the show. Let's get Tom Homan. Pick 3 polygraph text to test the sheriff, and 3 in a row, plus sodium pentothal. He's trained by 3-letter agencies to cheat and beat a test. He spent 10 years with the CIA. Well, I can tell you this. I won't tell you how, but I can cheat a polygraph. As a matter of fact, I have. It's possible. It's also, people say, oh, you can't be a CVSA. Really? Okay. Moving on. Anyway, James Harbin, you seem like a curious dude. So anyway, welcome. Next time you're here, please come in. Next time you're thinking about dropping into the saloon, you're certainly welcome. And of course, Jeremy Hansen and everybody else who's been here. Now, I must say this, and I have it on a piece of paper because otherwise, with my memory, I forget. Let me tell you about, this is Saturday. Let me tell you about the great shows on SHR that are coming up next week. As I mentioned before, time to bring this out. Media assets. Here we go. Let's have a media asset. So, Sean Lewis's show, The Edge of Liberty, is on Monday and Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern. So watch his show. He goes live. It's a great show. I highly recommend it. And then there's me, the fat guy. I'm on Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. And then there's also this Jumer, if I can find it. Here we go. Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense. He's on Monday and Friday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, we have Big E, Earl Jackson, whose show, Mission Ready Men, is not a nighttime show. It's a during the day show. And Earl is on Tuesday and Thursdays. Like me, I'm on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But Earl's show is 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. And of course, I don't have a graphic. Damn it, Jim. I'm sorry. Damn it, Rick. I don't have a graphic for you, but hey, that reminds me, I need to pick one up. The Rick Robinson show on KLRN is Tuesday, every day, Tuesday through Friday, from noon to 3 p.m. Pacific, 2 to 5 Central, and 3 to 6 Eastern. And if that wasn't confusing, come back to the show next Tuesday night, and I will regale you with all of these things again. And towards the end of the show, a lot of comments here. And Sean says, hey, that's me. Hey, that's you. Hey, that's Joe. Hey, that's E. And I'm helping. I can help. It's Shake and Bake. And I helped. And you can subscribe to the channel. And you could subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel and the SHR Media Rumble channel. And like Sean Lewis says, hey, it's free to hit the buttons. We're not charging you nothing. And like I said, it's Shake and Bake, and I helped. Well, I hope I helped you tonight. I had to just politics had to get out of my brain and put out here. So Monday, I want to remind everybody, Edge of Liberty on Monday. And that's the first SHR show that's coming. Edge of Liberty, Sean Lewis. 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern. And to those of you who have been here tonight, I'll make more, I'll see more people in the podcast, because Saturday night is just, I don't know. kind of a strange night, but hey, I did it. I don't think I was broadcast live on KLRN, but I might be able to get a re-stream tomorrow night on KLRN. So thanks to Rick Robinson for doing our stuff live and rebroadcasting while he can. And with that, something similar to this. And so that's when I say something similar to this, which is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and X and Twitch and all those cool places. Oh, and KLRN as well. Just like normal, promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Shure and Electro Voice microphones. The Arrakis board, the one I use, also by Pratt & Whitney engines, producing a thrust you can trust. And also, thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. Tiaras. Did you see this? Tiaras are by My Little Pony. So thanks to everybody who watched tonight live. Thanks to the people who watched in podcast. I appreciate you one and all. I feel better. I talked about politics. And to all of you, God bless. You take care. You be safe. Keep listening to SHR. Thank you all.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Night, Mama. Night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.